Hey everyone, welcome back to Practical AutoCAD and Inventor. In today's video, we're looking at XREFs or external references. If you've ever worked on a complex project with multiple files, you know how important it is to keep things organized and efficient. That's where XREFs come in. We'll cover everything from what XREFs are and how to manage them to some best practices to avoid common pitfalls. Whether you're a beginner looking to learn the basics or an experienced user wanting to refine your workflow, this video has something for you. So let's jump right in and get started. Before we begin looking at how to attach and use XREFs, let's talk a little bit about what they are. An XREF is like an underlay, a reference drawing or an image placed beneath a drawing. It helps designers align new elements with existing structures, ensuring accuracy and consistency. Using XREFs in AutoCAD is beneficial for several reasons. The first is collaboration and workflow efficiency. XREFs allow multiple users to work on different parts of a project simultaneously. Instead of copying files, teams can reference the same file in multiple drawings. So one person can have one building they're working on, another person can have another building they're working on, another person can be working on, say, landscaping drawings or something like that. And then when everything is done and all of the different draftsmen have their stuff all complete, you can put them all together in one drawing through a process called binding. The second reason is for file size management. Since XREFs are linked and not embedded, they help keep your drawing files smaller and more manageable, which also obviously helps with computer speed and that kind of thing. Automatic updates. When an XREF file is updated by one user, the changes are reflected in all drawings where it's referenced, ensuring consistency across the project. Layer control. XREFs maintain their own layer structures, allowing you to control visibility and organization without affecting the original file. Consistency across drawings. If multiple drawings use the same elements, such as title blocks, standard details, floor plans, that kind of thing, using XREFs ensure that the updates will apply universally without modifying each drawing. It reduces errors because changes made in the XREF are automatically updated in all drawings that reference it, reducing the risk of outdated or inconsistent information. And modular design. Large projects can be broken into smaller, more manageable files, making editing and troubleshooting easier. Next, let's take a look at actually how to embed and use XREFs in your drawings. As I stated earlier, XREFs allow a team of designers to all work on a project together. You know that only one person can check out an AutoCAD drawing at a time, which means that only one person can be working on that drawing at a time. But by using XREFs, you can break the work up into several different areas, have each team member reference each other's work in their drawings so that everybody can see what everybody's doing and work independently on individual drawings, and then bind all of those drawings together at the end as one drawing so that you can have presented as one project instead of several different projects. If we take the drawing on this screen, I've got basically a very simple layout for maybe a downtown block where there's going to be maybe a couple of businesses on these two different pads here, and there's some parking spaces, and basically I have all of the concrete put in place right now with maybe the lines for the parking places and that kind of thing. But if I wanted to share this project with somebody else, I need to kind of think about how I'm going to do that, and I would break this up, and I would have one person in charge of maybe drawing all the concrete and doing, the hardscaping, that kind of stuff. I might put another person in charge of whatever building is going to go on this pad. I might put another person in charge of what's going to go on this pad, and I could put another person in charge of all the landscaping, the services, all those kinds of things. So I take this one big project and I break it up into maybe 4 or 5 or however many smaller projects, and then each person will reference each other's work so that you can see the changes that other people are making as you're making your changes. Now, in a practical sense, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to switch to this drawing here, which is a blank drawing, but I'm going to reference that first drawing that I had with the downtown layout. Now there's a few different ways to get to the XREF command. I usually just type in XR and it brings up my XREF dialog box here. Now and what I can do is I can come in here and I can say I want to attach a DWG just by clicking on that. When I click on this, it allows me to browse to maybe whatever shared drive that file is going to be on, and it's important that it's shared so that everybody has access to it. And I'll say that that's my shared one that I want to look at. And it says, it gives me a few choices here. Do I want it as an attachment or an overlay? Do I want to specify my scale on screen? Do I want to specify my insertion point on screen? I'm going to uncheck that so that it simply comes in at 0, 0. And then over here, it asks me for the path type. Now there's a few different choices here. There's no path, relative path, and full path. Relative path means that everybody, it's going to be a little bit more flexible. It's going to, if I'm working on a different computer, it's going to try to figure out, what the different names of the drives are and figure those types of things out. It's a little more flexible. It's a little less reliable. The full path is very inflexible. If your information is kind of stored the same on every computer, that's the one that you'll want to use. But if there's even one letter off, maybe on the drive name or something like that, it won't help you find it out. I usually just put it in with a relative path and choose OK. So now you can see here that it brings in that same drawing that I was working on over here on this other tab. But the difference is now that instead of being bright, it's kind of dull, it's a little bit gray. And if I were to select it, you'll see that it kind of treats it as a block. That whole object is one thing. Now over here on my XREF palette, you'll see that it says here's the file that I'm working with. It's loaded right now, meaning that it's in memory. It is taking up memory in my drawing. And then these are the specifics. It's locked. This is how big it is. It's attached, and so on. Here's where it's found. Okay. If I need to update it, if somebody else is working on it and I want to update and see what the latest changes are that they've saved, I can use this refresh button right here. Okay, that's going to allow me to do that. Now this is an attached file. I'm going to go ahead and close this XREF palette for a moment. It is an attached file. If I select it, I can still do things like I can come in here and I can say, well, let's draw some lines, so I can still snap to all of these points. So it treats it like a regular drawing, but I can't come in and modify this drawing. If I were to double click on this drawing, it's going to give me a notice saying this is the one I want to edit. And if I choose OK, I get a message saying, hey, it cannot be edited because that drawing is checked out to another user. Well, it just so happens that it's checked out to me. It's checked out to me right here. So if I were to close this one, it eliminates that checked out status. It gets rid of the drawing lock file. Remember the drawing lock file. And now that since that drawing lock file isn't there, if I were to double click this, it allows me to come in and now I'm editing that drawing. Even though it says XREF demonstration, I'm actually editing that drawing that I was working on before. When I'm done, I can come up here and say save the changes, and it will take me back to that original drawing XREF demonstration, so I'm not working in this one. Now let's look exactly and see how this works. If I go to my layers dialog box, you'll see what happens is in my layers there are all of my layers for this drawing, but there are also layers for that XREF drawing. So these layers right here where it says downtown mics, okay, those are the layers that come from that source drawing. And again, you'll see that they are grayed out. I can't make them current. I can't modify them unless I'm actually modifying that original. But it allows me to come in and put in whatever it is that I need to put in. So if I were coming in here, for example, and I'm just going to make maybe like a wall layer current and say, okay, let's say I wanted to put my building in here. And I'm just going to draw a very simple rectangle. I say, okay, it's maybe this big here. I'll pull that back, say 48 inches or so. So that, there's where my building is going to sit when everything gets done. Even if I save this work it's not reflecting back into that other drawing. So if I go back over here to the Start menu and I look at the original drawing, this is the original drawing. Notice that my geometry that I added is not there. Okay, it's here in this drawing because, again, I'm not editing that original Downtown Mike's site plan. I'm just working on this one that says XREF demonstration and adding my own geometry into it. However, if there was somebody working on that Downtown Mike's site plan, and say they were working over here and adding some geometry in here, and I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to draw another rectangle over here just to kind of show you how this works. Let's say another user comes in and they're going to put their proposed building right there. As soon as they save this information, in my drawing, I'm going to get this message down here at the bottom saying, hey, an XREF was modified. Something that you're working on has been modified. So what I can do is I can come up here and say, hey, let's reload that drawing so that we can see the changes that are made. And what it does is it puts it in and it kind of highlights it for me, saying, hey, this is the stuff that's been changed or added to your drawing, so that you can, see what's going on. After I'm done seeing that and what it's done comparing, I can say, okay, I'm done with the comparison. I know what's changed and we're all good. So that's how you can use that. Now, as far as other things that you can do with XREFs, if I click on the XREF itself, you'll see that there's a few things that I can do. Again, I can edit the XREF in place as long as it's not checked out to somebody else. Okay, I can open the reference in another drawing file as long as it's not checked out to somebody else. I can create a clipping boundary. Let's say I don't need to see the whole thing. I just want my plan to show this side right here. I can say, let's create a clipping boundary, and I'm just going to say I want a rectangular on the command line down here. It's asking me what shape I want. I want a rectangular one. So now it asks me to specify my corners. So I can specify my corners like this. And now the rest of that XREF does exist, but it's kind of like an image. It's saying, hey, you're only concerned with this part, so we're going to take that and just show you the part that you want to see. If at some point I want to get rid of that clipping, I'll just say, hey, let's remove the clipping, and it gets rid of it. And then if I come into my external references options here, it just brings up that dialog box again. If I right click on here, you'll see that there are some options. So I could say, let's attach something else. Let's compare. Okay, so compare the two different files. If I unload this and I choose unload, you'll see here that it says unloaded, but it's still on the list. So what unload does is it takes that drawing and all of the memory that it occupies and it pulls it out of random access memory so that it frees up some space on your computer. Maybe now that I have my outline in place, I can come in and start adding interior walls and all the fixtures and whatever it is that needs to go in this building, but I don't really need everything else that's in there. So I can save some computing power, whatever it happens to be, by unloading that drawing. And it just kind of helps things go a little bit faster. But at some point, if I want to see any changes that have been made, I can just simply say reload that, and it brings it back in. Right clicking again here, if I don't want this attached anymore, I can choose detach, okay? And it basically unloads that drawing from the reference. So it's no longer attached, it's not a part of the memory. But if I want to attach it again, I can come in here and I can simply attach it again. So I'll just pick it again one more time and I'll attach it in the same way. So now it's back there. When you're all done with everything and you're satisfied with how everything's going to work, you can use the bind tool here. And what it does is it takes all of the files from everybody else and it puts them all into one, kind of like an insert block command, and it imports everything and it puts it all as one file. So then you can print it, but you don't do bind until everybody's done, everything's been approved. A lot of times it doesn't even happen until the project's completely done with all the as-built and everything in place.